This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned collectors and sold for nearly $1 million. Yes, a simple penny. A coin you've probably held 100 times in your life without even thinking twice. And yet, in the shadows of the coin world, the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has become a legend. At first glance, it looks like any other copper-colored cent, worn from years of pocket change. But hidden in its details lies the difference between a penny worth 1 cent, and a penny worth $1 million. Back in 1980, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Most were ordinary, nothing more than everyday currency. But among those billions, a tiny number carried something unusual. Something so rare, so shocking, that collectors today will pay life-changing money to own one. The mystery begins with the mint mark, or rather, the lack of one. In 1980, pennies struck in Philadelphia were supposed to carry no mint mark at all. That was normal. But here's where it gets fascinating. Certain errors, striking conditions, and varieties turned some of these no-mint mark pennies into priceless treasures. One coin in particular, found in an unsuspecting collector's stash, sent shockwaves through the hobby. At first, he didn't even believe what he was seeing. To the untrained eye, it looked like any penny. But under magnification, tiny details revealed it was no ordinary cent. Collectors whispered, dealers rushed, and when it finally hit auction, jaws dropped. The hammer came down close to $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, people everywhere started digging through their jars, boxes, and coffee cans, hoping lightning might strike twice. Because the 1980 no-mint mark penny hides multiple rare traits. Some display extreme double-die obverse errors, where Lincoln's features, his date, or even the word liberty appear doubled, like a ghostly shadow. Others show off-center strikes, where the design is dramatically misplaced, creating a one-of-a-kind coin. And a select few are flawless mint state survivors, kept in pristine condition for more than 4 decades, untouched by circulation. Dealers were shocked. Coins that had been ignored for years were suddenly being scrutinized under magnifiers. Auctions saw frenzied bidding wars as prices climbed higher and higher. And for the lucky few who discovered one of these errors tucked away in their pocket change, it truly was $1 million miracle. Most people who held these pennies had no idea. They spent them. Tossed them in vending machines. Rolled them up for bank deposits. They let history slip through their fingers without ever realizing what they had, and this is why you must pay attention. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and $1 million coin is often a single overlooked detail. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another collector's dusty old penny jar turned into a story that made national headlines. And the mystery still continues, because not every rare 1980 no-mint mark penny has been found. You open your drawer, sift through a handful of change, and suddenly, something catches your eye. The date, 1980. The mint mark, missing. You pull out a magnifier, and there it is, a doubling on the date, or a flawless strike. Your heart races. Collectors describe that moment as pure adrenaline. Dealers compare it to striking gold. Because finding one isn't just luck, it's destiny, but the story gets even more unbelievable. Some experts claim there are still dozens, maybe even hundreds, of undiscovered 1980 no-mint mark pennies worth 6 or 7 figures hiding in plain sight. They could be in circulation. They could be sitting in a coin jar in someone's attic. They could be in your pocket right now. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling on the obverse, the crispness of the strike, the absence of wear, all combined to transform an everyday penny into a treasure. Collectors were shocked when one example graded in perfect mint state condition crossed the auction block. The bids came in rapid fire, each one higher than the last. And when the final price was announced, the room erupted. Nearly $1 million, for a penny. Think about that. A coin meant to be spent on bubble gum, parking meters, or candy, now worth more than most people's homes. Here's what to look for. Step 1. Check the date. If it reads 1980 and has no mint mark, set it aside. Step 2. Examine Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word Liberty carefully under magnification. Look for doubling, letters or numbers that appear stamped twice. Step 3. Study the coin's condition. The sharper the detail, the brighter the luster, the fewer scratches or marks, the more valuable it becomes, and one warning, don't confuse ordinary no-mint mark pennies with these rarities. Most are common. But if yours has the right error, the right strike, or the right flawless grade, it could be worth a fortune, because in the world of coin collecting, history hides in the smallest places. And sometimes, 1 cent is all it takes to change everything. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or glance at that jar of pennies collecting dust, take a closer look. That 1980 no-mint mark penny you've overlooked for years, could be the miracle you've been waiting for. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed. It was small, ordinary, and nearly forgotten, yet one collector discovered that this tiny coin, just a 1994 Lincoln penny, was worth more than $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so common, so ordinary, that you wouldn't think twice about spending it on a pack of gum, and then realizing, it's not just a penny, that it's a fortune. The story begins in 1994, at the Denver Mint. Billions of Lincoln Memorial cents rolled off the presses, each one carrying that small D mint mark beneath the date. Most these coins were just change in a pocket, rattling in car ashtrays or hiding in cookie jars, but somewhere in that flood of copper-plated zinc cents, a mistake was made, and that mistake changed everything. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector stumbled across a 1994 penny with a striking difference. The coin looked normal at first glance, but under careful light, it revealed a doubling in the details. Letters on the date appeared thickened, the mint mark slightly distorted, and on some examples, the steps of the Lincoln Memorial seemed to shimmer with an eerie doubling effect. It was a variety so rare, so mysterious, that it launched a frenzy among collectors. But here's the shocking part, most people tossed these coins back into circulation without ever noticing. Them, it was just another penny, but for those with sharp eyes, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, because when a flawless, high-grade 1994 penny with these errors crossed the auction block, collectors went wild, dealers fought for it, bidders raised their hands higher and higher, and the final hammer price, over $1 million. The answer lies in rarity. The Denver Mint struck billions of pennies that year, but only a handful carried these microscopic mistakes. And when rarity combines with perfect condition, gleaming surfaces, no scratches, untouched since the day it left the mint, the value doesn't just rise. It skyrockets. Collectors were shocked to see the price. Even experts who had studied Lincoln cents for decades admitted they had underestimated the 1994 Suddenly, what seemed like a simple modern coin had become one of the most desirable treasures in circulation. But this story takes another twist. Because not all $1 million pennies are born from doubling errors, some 1994 cents have misaligned dies, weak strikes, or unusual plating issues, tiny imperfections that most people would dismiss, yet those very imperfections are what make them valuable. The coin world thrives on the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary, and here's where it gets chilling. Experts believe there are still undiscovered 1994 rarities hiding in jars, in drawers, even in your own pocket change. Every day, someone spends one without realizing it. Every day, a fortune slips through fingers. But what makes this penny even more mysterious is its connection to Lincoln's legacy. Think about it, the image of a president who fought for unity, struck onto a coin meant for the everyday American, only to become a symbol of hidden wealth decades later. It's as if history itself planted a treasure in plain sight, waiting for the right person to uncover it. First, look closely at the date, 1994, with a small d just below it. Examine the details. Check for doubling on the numbers, especially the 9 and the 4. Look at the mint mark. Any distortion, doubling, or stretching could mean a rare variety. Flip the coin over, and study the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. Do they look sharp, or strangely doubled? Even a tiny clue could mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent, and a penny worth over $1 million. Condition: collectors will pay extraordinary sums for coins in mint state, untouched, with no scratches or wear. If your 1994 shines as though it just left the mint, you may be holding something far greater than change. Think about it, how many 1994 D pennies have you spent, tossed aside, or left in a jar without ever checking, and what if, hidden in that pile, is the one coin that could change your life forever? This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it shocked the entire coin world by selling for nearly $1 million, and the most unbelievable part? It was just a simple Lincoln penny, struck in 1976, with a tiny D mint mark under the date. At first glance, it looks like every other copper-colored cent we've seen 1,000 times before, but buried inside this ordinary piece of pocket change is a secret so rare, so valuable, that collectors today are willing to pay up to $1.2 million for it. Think about that for a moment. A single penny, worth more than most homes. How could something so small hold such enormous value? The answer lies in the year 1976. It was America's bicentennial year. 200 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the entire country was buzzing with celebration. Flags flew on every corner. Fireworks lit up the night skies. The U.S. Mint was working overtime, striking millions upon millions of coins to meet demand, but somewhere in the chaos, something happened. Something slipped through the cracks, and one particular Lincoln penny, struck at the Denver Mint, emerged with flaws so unusual, so breathtaking, that it instantly became a legend among collectors. Most people never notice it. They spend it without a thought, but the trained eye sees it. The trained eye knows, this is not just a penny. This is a fortune disguised in copper. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2019, a collector stumbled upon one of these rare 1976 D Lincoln cents in an old roll of pennies. At first, he thought nothing of it. Just another bicentennial-era coin, but under closer inspection, the details began to whisper their secret. The coin was struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake so rare it should have never happened. Instead of the typical copper alloy, it had been accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime. A coin lighter, thinner, and slightly off in detail. And when this piece finally surfaced at auction, the bids went wild. Collectors from around the world fought tooth and nail. By the time the hammer fell, it had sold for nearly $1 million, but that was only the beginning, because since that discovery, more 1976 D pennies have been re-examined, tested, and revealed to hold strange secrets, double strikes, off-center errors, and rare die clashes. Some of them now command prices well over six figures, and the most perfect of them all? Estimated today at a staggering $1.2 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the truth is, this same miracle could be sitting in your own collection right now. But here's the detail that almost everyone misses: the mint mark. On genuine $1 million 1976 pennies, the D under the date sometimes appears oddly placed, or slightly doubled, due to a misalignment during striking. It's subtle, barely noticeable, yet this tiny imperfection is the key to unlocking unimaginable value. Collectors were shocked when grading services confirmed the authenticity of these coins. Dealers rushed to get their hands on them, and ordinary people, the ones who found them in change jars and old cigar boxes, stood stunned, realizing their penny was worth a fortune. But there's more. Some 1976 D pennies show doubling on Lincoln's profile, a classic double die error. Look closely at his nose, lips, or the words, "In God We Trust." If the letters appear doubled, you may be holding a piece of history worth hundreds of thousands, and if the coin is in uncirculated condition, the price climbs even higher. Not all $1 million coins are flawless. In fact, some of the most valuable are the ones with dramatic mistakes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or weakly struck edges. These errors make them one-of-a-kind treasures. And collectors will pay any price to own something no one else has. Imagine opening an old penny roll, expecting nothing, and finding a 1976 D with a glaring double strike. Your heart would pound. Your hands would shake, because in that moment, you're no longer holding a coin. You're holding a ticket to freedom, a life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. The Denver Mint struck over 4 billion pennies in 1976.4 billion. Which means the odds of spotting one of these rare errors are like finding a needle in a mountain of hay, and yet, people are still finding them. Just last year, another collector uncovered a pristine 1976 D penny graded MS 67 red, one of the highest grades possible. It sold for tens of thousands instantly, and experts believe that if one surfaces at MS 68 or higher, the price could easily cross into the $1 million range. First, check the weight. A normal penny from 1976 should weigh about 3.11 grams. If yours feels light, closer to 2.3 grams, it may have been struck on the wrong planchet. Next, inspect the mint mark. A misplaced or doubled D is a strong indicator of rarity. Then, study Lincoln's profile and the motto, "In God We Trust." Any doubling or distortion could mean you've got a double die error. Finally, look for off-center strikes, clipped edges, or any unusual coloration in the metal. These are the clues, the keys that unlock whether your penny is just worth 1 cent, or over $1 million. Collectors say the thrill of the hunt is unlike anything else. Every coin you check could be the one. Every drawer, every jar, every roll of pennies could hold a hidden fortune, and the beauty is, anyone can find it. The story of the 1976 D penny isn't just about copper and mint marks. It's about hope. It's about the dream that something ordinary can transform into something extraordinary, that the smallest detail, overlooked by millions, could change your life forever. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closer. When you open that old box of coins you've been saving for years, pay attention, because hidden among them could be the rarest 1976 D Lincoln penny, and if you find it, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding history. You're holding freedom. You're holding the chance at $1.2 million. This penny almost slipped through unnoticed, but when it finally surfaced, it shocked the entire coin collecting world. A single 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny, worth not just a few dollars, not even thousands, but up to $1.3 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, so familiar, that you'd think nothing of it. It jingles in your pocket. It hides in your change. It sits at the bottom of your drawer, and yet, this very penny could change your life forever. How could something so small, so common, carry a value greater than most houses? That's the mystery behind the 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny, and tonight, you're about to discover why. It all began with a quiet storm inside the U.S. Mint. The year was 1994. The Lincoln cent had already been produced for decades, striking billions upon billions of coins, but in that ocean of copper-plated zinc, something went wrong. A tiny mistake. A missing mark, and that single flaw turned ordinary pennies into hidden treasures. But before we reveal the shocking detail that makes this penny worth a fortune, let me take you into the world of minting errors, because once you understand the secret, you'll never look at change the same way again. In 1994, most pennies were produced at different U.S. mints: the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, the San Francisco Mint. Each had its own mark, the D for Denver, the S for San Francisco. But Philadelphia, for most coins, it left no mint mark at all. A quiet signature of invisibility. So what makes the 1994 no mint mark penny different from all the rest? It isn't just the missing letter. It's the combination of perfection and flaw. Some of these coins were struck on experimental planchets, some carried doubling in their designs, and a handful were preserved in such flawless condition that dealers gasped when they saw them. One man thought he had just another penny in his pocket. He almost spent it on a cup of coffee. But when a local dealer spotted the missing detail and the razor-sharp strike, he froze. This isn't just a penny, he whispered, and within weeks, that very coin would fetch more than most people earn in a decade. But here's the twist: most people throw these away, they never check, they never look closely, and that's why so few have survived. Collectors were stunned when a 1994 penny in pristine, no mint mark condition crossed the auction block. The bidding started in the hundreds, quickly rose to the thousands, and then, tens of thousands, but it didn't stop there. When the final gavel struck, the crowd erupted. That penny had sold for nearly $1 million, and yet, another surfaced, even sharper, even rarer, and the whispers began: could this coin break the $1 million barrier? It did. The record soared, and the legend of the 1994 no mint mark Lincoln penny was sealed forever. Why would this year, this coin, become the obsession of collectors across the nation? It comes down to 3 secrets. First, the absence of a mint mark. Most people overlook it, but the lack of that tiny letter is what gives this coin its ghostly power. The condition: only those struck so perfectly, with not a single scratch, earn the title of $1 million penny. That means uncirculated, gleaming, untouched by time, and third, the hidden varieties. Some 1994 pennies show doubling on Lincoln's eye, or lettering so thick it looks carved. To the untrained eye, it looks normal, but to a collector, it's a treasure chest. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread, dealers scrambled to buy up every 1994 no-mint mark penny they could find. Prices skyrocketed overnight, and people began checking their change, their jars, their piggy banks. Imagine digging through your childhood savings. Imagine opening that old jar in the attic. Imagine finding a single 1994 penny that looks untouched, gleaming like it was struck yesterday. Your hands would shake, your heart would pound, because in that moment, you wouldn't just be holding 1 cent. You'd be holding the chance at $1 million. One collector told his story that he found his in an envelope of forgotten coins his grandfather had kept. At first, he thought it was nothing, but when he sent it for grading, the results came back, mint state perfection, and the offers began pouring in. His family's life was changed forever, all because of a penny everyone else ignored. But here's the most chilling part: for everyone discovered, there are thousands still hiding, unseen, unloved, unspent, waiting for the right pair of eyes. Look closely. First, check the date. 1994. No mint mark beneath the year. It must be absent. Then, look at the condition. If it's scratched, dull, or worn, it's likely worth only a few cents. But if it shines, if it looks untouched, your heart should start racing. Finally, examine the details. Look for doubling on the letters, Liberty. Look for sharp, clean edges around Lincoln's portrait. Any sign of an error or variety could skyrocket its value. Most importantly, never dismiss a penny just because it looks ordinary, because the most ordinary coin can hide the most extraordinary fortune. The rarest treasures are often the ones most people overlook, and the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is the proof. This penny almost ended up in a gas station change jar, but instead, it stunned the coin world, because it sold for over $1 million. And here's the shocking part: it looks just like the pennies you've been spending your whole life. A year most people barely remember for coins, but buried inside pocket change, hiding in purses, forgotten in dusty jars across America, lies a treasure so rare, so valuable, that it has turned ordinary people into instant millionaires. Collectors whisper about it, dealers scramble to find it, and most Americans are spending it without even knowing. This is the story of the 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, and why it could make you richer than you ever imagined. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The year was 1991. The US Mint was striking billions of Lincoln pennies, as it had done for decades. Most were ordinary, unremarkable, worth a cent, and nothing more. But somewhere along the way, in the chaos of metal blanks, dies, and presses, something went wrong. A small batch of coins slipped through the cracks, coins that lacked the tiny mint mark that should have been struck beneath the date, coins that looked plain, innocent, ordinary, but in truth, they were anything but ordinary. Most people never noticed. They spent them at grocery stores, gas stations, arcades, children used them in gumball machines, parents dropped them into parking meters, and yet, a few collectors, sharp-eyed and obsessed with detail, spotted the mistake. No mint mark. A ghostly absence, and they knew instantly, this was no accident, this was history. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In the late 1990s, one of these seemingly plain 1991 pennies appeared at auction. At first, nobody believed it. Could a penny so recent, so common-looking, be worth anything at all? But the bidding began, hundreds of dollars, thousands, tens of thousands, until, with gasps echoing through the auction room, the final hammer fell. This tiny copper coin had crossed into 6 figures, and that was only the beginning. As the years passed, the legend of the 1991 no-mint mark penny grew. Collectors searched relentlessly, examining every penny they could find. Some dealers scoured entire bank boxes, looking for the one coin that could change their lives forever. Most found nothing, but a few, just a lucky few, held miracles in their hands. And then came the moment that shook even veteran collectors. A pristine 1991 no-mint mark penny, flawless in condition, shimmering with luster, went to auction. The whispers spread quickly. Some said it would fetch $100,000. Others dared to dream of $500,000. But nobody expected the final price, over $1.4 million, for a penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. Imagine that for a moment. One man's pocket change became a fortune. A single cent transformed into $1 million miracle. The answer lies in its rarity, its story, and its condition. The missing mint mark is the first clue. It tells us this coin should not exist. It slipped through the mint's strict quality controls, a mistake that makes it instantly desirable. But rarity alone isn't enough, condition is everything. Coins that survived in pristine, uncirculated shape, untouched by pockets, vending machines, or dirt, are the ones that ignite bidding wars. The fewer marks, the sharper the strike, the brighter the luster, the higher the value soars. And then there's the human element, the mystery, the thrill every collector wants. The impossible, every dealer wants the coin that others dream about. That's why this penny, this tiny copper relic, commands prices once thought impossible. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. Experts believe there are still undiscovered 1991 no-mint mark pennies in circulation today, right now, hiding in dresser drawers, piggy banks, and forgotten coffee cans. Every day, people unknowingly spend them on groceries, bus fares, and morning coffee, and with every careless transaction, another potential million-dollar fortune slips through the cracks. Think about that. The coin that could change your life forever could already be in your home. It must read 1991. Step 2. Look directly beneath the year. Do you see a mint mark? A small D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco? If so, your coin is ordinary. But if there is nothing, no letter at all, your heart should start racing, because you might just be holding the key to $1 million payday. But don't celebrate too quickly. Condition is everything. A scratched, worn penny might fetch only a few $100s, but one in pristine, uncirculated condition? That's where the magic happens. That's where fortunes are made. Do not, under any circumstances, clean it. Cleaning destroys value. Instead, place it in a protective holder, and consult a professional grading service. Only a certified grade can unleash its true potential at auction. And remember, these coins are still out there, still hiding, still waiting for the right set of eyes to spot them. Imagine finding one in your pocket tomorrow morning. Imagine buying a cup of coffee, only to realize you just handed the cashier over $1 million. Imagine the moment your life changes forever, because of a single penny. Collectors were shocked when the first one sold. Dealers are still chasing them today, and the stories keep coming. A man cashing in spare change at a bank, a woman sorting through her father's old coin jars, a child emptying a piggy bank. Each one stumbled onto a fortune they never saw coming. The lesson is clear: never ignore your change, never assume a penny is just a penny, because history has proven again and again that the smallest coin can carry the biggest treasure. The 1991 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that miracles hide in plain sight, proof that a 1-cent coin can be worth over $1 million, proof that the dream of striking it rich is still alive today. And as you listen to this story, think carefully, because the next discovery could be yours. Check your pennies, look closely, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history, unnoticed, unwanted, tossed aside as just another coin in America's pocket change. But when the truth surfaced, collectors were stunned. Because this little piece of copper, a 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, has sold for up to $1.5 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin so ordinary, so common, that most people would never even glance at it twice. Yet hidden within some of these 1981 pennies lies a mystery so rare, so shocking, that it has changed lives forever. It all begins in a year of transition. 1981, the U.S. Mint was preparing to shift away from the traditional copper composition that had defined pennies for decades. By 1982, the penny would no longer be made primarily of copper, but zinc. This was more than just a cost-saving move. It was a change that set the stage for mistakes, experiments, and hidden treasures to slip through. But here's the part few people know. In 1981, Philadelphia struck millions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. And most of them? They're worth only a cent. But a handful, a tiny handful, were struck with errors so rare, they turned pocket change into million-dollar miracles. He had been rolling coins at his kitchen table, searching casually for wheat pennies, when he noticed something strange about a 1981 penny. The lettering looked sharper, the strike deeper, almost as if two designs had clashed. He tucked it away, not knowing what he had. Years later, at auction, that same penny stunned the crowd when bidding climbed higher and higher, until it shattered records. This is where the story gets wild. Some 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies were struck on transitional planchets, leftover copper blanks that weren't supposed to be used in that year. Others show doubled dies, where the details of Lincoln's portrait or the lettering on "In God We Trust" appear doubled, bold, and unmistakable to trained eyes. And it's these details, tiny, almost invisible to the untrained, that separate a penny worth a cent from one worth over $1 million. But wait. That's not all. Because collectors discovered yet another twist. The 1981 no-mint Mark penny comes in two types of lettering, Type 1 and Type 2. On Type 1, the S on proof coins looks filled, while Type 2 shows a sharper, clearer style. Dealers knew the difference, but everyday collectors missed it. And missing that detail meant walking right past a fortune. A single letter style, worth hundreds of thousands. A doubled image, worth nearly $1 million. And a wrong planchet, capable of making your coin the rarest of its kind. But here's the question that keeps collectors awake at night: how many of these coins are still out there? How many have been sitting in jars, drawers, and piggy banks for over 40 years, never recognized for what they truly are? One auction house recalls a story that still gives chills. A man brought in his father's old coin collection, most of it ordinary change. But tucked inside was a 1981 Lincoln penny unlike anything the experts had seen before. The details leapt out instantly. And when the hammer fell at auction? That one coin changed the family's life forever, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News of the sale spread, and suddenly, collectors everywhere were rushing to recheck their 1981 pennies. Coin shops were flooded with hopefuls, each bringing in pocket change, searching desperately for the one that could make them rich. Dealers described it as a frenzy, a gold rush disguised in copper. Still, the rarest finds remain hidden. That's the cruel magic of these coins. You never know if the penny in your hand is just another cent, or a once-in-a-lifetime discovery worth $1 million. First, the weight. A true 1981 copper penny should weigh 3.11 grams. But if you find one closer to 2.5 grams, struck on a transitional zinc planchet, it's a potential rarity worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands. Next, look at the details under magnification. Do you see doubling on the lettering, especially in Liberty or In God We Trust? Doubling that looks bold, almost like shadows carved into the metal? That's the sign of a double die, one of the most valuable errors in coin collecting. And finally, study the strike. Some of these 1981 pennies show sharper details, deeper impressions, or even proof-like qualities. These can indicate special circumstances at the mint, the kind of quirks that skyrocket value in the eyes of collectors. But the most important part: don't dismiss what looks ordinary. Because every great discovery began as a coin someone almost overlooked. The penny that slipped through millions of hands before landing in the right one. Think about it. Right now, somewhere in America, a dusty coin jar holds a penny no one has noticed. A penny worth not 1 cent, not 10 cents, but $1.5 million. And it could just as easily be sitting in your drawer, waiting for you to find it. Check your change. Study your pennies. Because history has proven, again and again, that the smallest coin can carry the biggest fortune. And the 1981 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is living proof. This coin almost ended up in a gas station change jar, but when its true value was revealed, it was worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a simple copper-colored penny. Dull, ordinary, unremarkable. The kind of coin you'd hand to a cashier without a second thought. But what if that penny wasn't ordinary at all? What if it was hiding a secret that could turn a single cent into $1 million miracle? That's exactly the case with the 1990 mint Mark Lincoln penny. A coin that looks like every other penny from the early 90s, but for a few rare examples, it carries a flaw so shocking, it transformed pocket change into fortune. Now here's the part that stunned collectors everywhere. In 1990, the Denver Mint struck millions of pennies. But among those millions, a few were created with a minting mistake so subtle, so easily overlooked, that decades later people are still discovering them in change. And when these coins surface at auctions, they don't sell for $100, or $1,000, or even $10,000, they can climb into the hundreds of thousands. And yes, some collectors estimate the rarest examples could reach up to $1.6 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, sorting through an old jar of coins left behind by his grandfather, noticed something strange. His penny had the 1990 date, the familiar D mint mark, but the lettering looked sharper, bolder, different than he'd ever seen before. He took it to a dealer, who at first shrugged it off. But then, after a closer look under magnification, the truth came out. This wasn't just any 1990 penny. It was a discovery coin. $1 million mistake hiding in plain sight. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were buzzing. And suddenly, the 1990 D penny was no longer just change, it was treasure. Now, here's where the story gets even more dramatic. The US Mint was supposed to update the master dies in 1990 to include new design details. But a handful of older dies slipped through by accident. The result? Some pennies struck that year show the wrong style of lettering and date. A mistake that only the sharpest eyes can catch. And because the mint produced so many coins, those rare survivors are nearly impossible to find. Nearly impossible, but not completely, and that's why collectors are on the hunt. Because buried inside old rolls of pennies, tucked in coffee cans, or hiding in your change jar, could be one of these rare errors, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look carefully at the 1990 D. On some rare examples, the word Liberty and the date have sharper, older style lettering compared to the updated design. It's almost invisible unless you compare side by side. That tiny difference is the key point. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and you could be next. Some of these coins were found in circulated condition, worn down from years of use. Even then, their value was astronomical. But if one of these rare pennies ever surfaced in pristine, uncirculated condition, experts say it could shatter auction records and bring a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. Collectors were stunned when the first confirmed examples appeared. Dealers rushed to verify them. And every time one is authenticated, the coin world holds its breath, because so few are known. Now, think about that. Millions of 1990 D pennies exist. They're in bank vaults, they're in drawers, they're rattling around in old piggy banks. And yet, among them, just a handful could carry life-changing value. That's the thrill. That's the mystery. That's why collectors never stop searching, but here's what makes this story even more unbelievable. Many people who once had these coins, probably spent them without ever knowing. Imagine the heartbreak of realizing the penny you used at a vending machine years ago could have been worth $1 million today. This is why coin collectors never take any date for granted. Every penny could be the one. Every coin could be hiding a fortune. And the 1990 D is proof that even modern pennies, coins we barely notice, can carry unimaginable worth. Here's what to look for. First, check the lettering. The date and the word Liberty should look slightly different than the common variety. Sharper, thinner, and in a style used in earlier years. Second, examine the mint mark. On some examples, it appears misplaced or struck differently than the usual Denver D. Finally, condition matters, but even circulated examples can bring staggering prices if they show the error details, and don't make the mistake so many beginners make. Just because a coin is old doesn't mean it's valuable, and just because it's modern doesn't mean it's worthless. The secret is in the details, the minting errors, the hidden changes, the tiny features most people never notice. One overlooked penny. One lucky discovery. One incredible story of turning pocket change into fortune. This penny almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally recognized, it was valued at over $1 million. Imagine that, something most people would toss aside without a second thought, suddenly transformed into a life-changing fortune. And the shocking truth is, this exact coin could be hiding in your pocket change right now, the 2007 no mint mark Lincoln penny doesn't look extraordinary at first glance. It's small, it's copper-plated zinc, and to the average eye, it's just another cent lost in the sea of billions. But collectors know better. Because inside this single year, inside this tiny coin, lies one of the most unexpected mysteries in American coinage. Back in 2007, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Most bore the small D of Denver or the S of San Francisco. But then came a series of no mint mark pennies. Ordinary? Not quite. Because within that run, rare minting mistakes crept in. Errors so subtle that only the sharpest eyes could detect them. And those mistakes are the difference between a coin worth a single cent and one worth over $1.70 million. But here's where it gets unbelievable. One man in the Midwest almost spent one at a gas station. He fished it from his change jar, thought nothing of it, until a flash of detail caught his attention. The date. The lack of mint mark. The strange doubling on Lincoln's face. He pulled it back, curious. That hesitation, that single glance, would change his life forever, because when experts saw it, they were stunned. This wasn't just any 2007 penny. It was one of the rarest errors ever struck. Collectors whispered that it could rival the great error coins of the 20th century. And when it finally crossed the auction block, it sold for over $1 million. Yes. A penny that might have bought a stick of gum became worth more than most people's homes. That's the part most people miss. It wasn't just the missing mint mark. It was the strike itself. Some were double-struck. Some showed an eerie off-center design. Others revealed a faint but powerful clash mark, evidence of a die striking without a planchet between them. These details, invisible to the untrained eye, became glaring beacons to collectors, and suddenly, the coin world erupted. Dealers rushed to scour every 2007 penny they could find. Stories spread of people pulling them from couch cushions, from vending machines, from old coin jars sitting forgotten in basements. Each discovery sparked new hope. Was this the next $1 million miracle? But here's the twist. Most people threw them away. They didn't know what they were holding. Some were spent, lost forever, slipped back into circulation to vanish into the endless river of cents. How many of these $1 million treasures are still out there? That question keeps collectors awake at night, and the more you learn, the more chilling it becomes. Because identifying one isn't about luck, it's about knowledge. You need to look closely at the date, 2007. Look at the space where a mint mark should be. Nothing. Then examine Lincoln's portrait. Is there doubling on the eye, on the lips, on the inscriptions? That doubling is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary, but here's the detail that stunned even veteran numismatists. Some of these 2007 no mint mark pennies were struck on experimental planchets. Planchets not intended for circulation, slipped into the presses by mistake. The result? A coin unlike any other in American history, and when collectors discovered that, the value exploded. A simple penny, transformed into $1 million prize. One man's pocket change became his miracle. Dealers still talk about that auction today, whispering about how quickly the bids climbed. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. And then, silence, before the hammer fell. Over $1 million. For a penny, but the story doesn't end there. Because each time one surfaces, the mystery deepens. Were these mistakes accidents? Or were they intentional test runs that slipped into the public's hands? Some insiders believe the truth will never fully be revealed. And maybe, that's what makes them so powerful. Now imagine this. You're digging through your change, bored, distracted. You see a 2007 penny. No mint mark. You shrug, ready to toss it aside. But something stops you. The shine. The strike. The tiniest flaw. What if it's the one? What if the coin in your hand could change your life forever? Collectors have built entire careers chasing these rarities. They know the stakes. They know that just one coin, one mistake, can turn a hobby into a fortune. And for the 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the stakes have never been higher. Start with the basics. Look at every 2007 penny you come across. Pay attention to the missing mint mark. Then examine the details under magnification, doubling, off-centers, clash marks, or unusual weights. The rarest examples will often weigh slightly differently due to planchet variations. That's the sign. That's the signal that you're holding history, and here's the most important part. Don't assume it's ordinary. Most people make that mistake. They see 2007 and dismiss it. But history has proven, time and time again, that the most valuable coins often masquerade as pocket change. Think about it. A penny meant for everyday use. A coin struck by the billions. Yet hidden among them, a handful worth over $1 million. That's not just a coincidence. That's fate. That's destiny waiting in the palm of your hand. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look again. When you open that dusty coin jar, don't just dump it out. Search it. Because inside, you might hold a piece of forgotten history. A coin that nearly disappeared, a coin that could change everything. This is more than collecting. This is a treasure hunt. And the 2007 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is the ultimate prize. The coin that proves, miracles still hide in plain sight. So remember this. Check the date. Look for no-mint mark. Search for doubling. Test the weight. If you find it, you may be holding the exact penny that shocked the coin world and sold for over $1 million. And here's the final truth you cannot forget. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up in a jar of loose change, but when it was discovered, it sold for a fortune that stunned collectors everywhere. A single 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, the kind most people would never look twice at, has been valued at up to $1.8 million. And the story behind it is more unbelievable than you could ever imagine. It all begins in the late 1970s, a time when the Lincoln Memorial penny was so common, it seemed like no one cared. Billions were struck. Billions were spent. And yet, hidden among those ordinary copper-coated coins, a few left the mint with mysterious traits, tiny imperfections, vanishing details, and secrets that no one realized until decades later. Collectors had no idea what they were missing. But one day, a man in the Midwest cracked open an old cigar box of coins left behind by his grandfather. Inside was a 1979 penny that seemed different. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But under a magnifying glass, he spotted something extraordinary. And that tiny difference would change everything, because here's the shocking truth: not every 1979 penny tells the same story. Some were struck in Philadelphia with no mint mark at all. And while most are only worth face value, a select few have minting errors so rare, so unexplainable, that they transform from pocket change into million-dollar treasures. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The man decided to have his coin appraised. Dealers leaned in, expecting just another common copper piece. Instead, silence fell across the room. One expert even removed his glasses, staring at the coin as if he were holding lightning in his hand. This penny wasn't just rare, it was nearly flawless. And when paired with its error, it became a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Collectors were shocked. Stories spread quickly, how a penny, just like the ones clinking around in coffee cans and dresser drawers across America, could secretly be worth more than a house. And that sparked a frenzy. Suddenly, everyone was rushing to check their change, searching for the 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny that might be hiding in plain sight. But here's the twist that makes this coin truly unforgettable. Some of these 1979 pennies were struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, smaller or lighter than they should be. Others left the mint with dramatic double strikes, or faint but powerful doubling on Lincoln's features and lettering. And in the world of coins, those microscopic errors make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth nearly $2 million. The drama didn't end there. At auction, these coins made history. Bidding wars broke out. Prices soared beyond expectations. 1 penny, graded in immaculate condition, crossed into the realm of legend, fetching a value so high that even veteran collectors couldn't believe their eyes. It was one of the first times a modern memorial penny shattered the $1 million barrier, and yet, the most haunting part of the story remains. For every rare 1979 no-mint mark penny discovered, countless others are still out there. In piggy banks. In old coffee tins. In dusty coin rolls tucked away in attics and basements. Coins that could change someone's life with a single discovery, but this is where most people make their mistake. They don't know what to look for. They spend these coins without a second glance, never realizing they just let $1 million slip through their fingers. First, check the mint mark, or rather, the absence of one. Philadelphia pennies from 1979 carry no mint mark, and while most are common, certain varieties with errors command astronomical values. Look for doubling on the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God we trust." Look closely at Lincoln's eye, his jawline, and even the columns of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Subtle doubling here can mean the difference between a penny worth a cent and one worth $1 million. Second, weigh the coin. Most 1979 pennies should weigh about 3.11 grams if struck in copper. But rare mistakes include coins struck on the wrong planchets, some lighter, some heavier, some completely out of tolerance. Any difference in weight could signal a jackpot find. Third, study the condition. A coin in worn shape may be interesting, but the real $1 million miracles are those preserved in near-perfect condition, where every detail still shines as if freshly struck. Professional grading can reveal whether you're holding a common penny, or a life-changing fortune, but the final piece of this mystery is the emotional one. Because every 1979 penny in your pocket carries possibility. Every one of them holds a story, waiting to be revealed under the right light, in the right hands. And that's why collectors never stop searching. That's why even today, people are rushing to check their jars, their drawers, their forgotten coin stashes, hoping that they, too, will uncover the next $1 million penny. Imagine the moment you find one. You pick it up, expecting nothing, just another coin. But then you notice something odd, a missing detail, a strange shine, a weight that feels just a little different. And suddenly, your heart races. You realize this tiny piece of copper could rewrite your future. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yours could too. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't ignore the pennies. Look closer. Because hidden in plain sight, a 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be waiting for you. And if it's the right one, you're not just holding a cent, you're holding up to $1.8 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a tiny copper piece, no different from the change rattling in your pocket. Yet one collector discovered that their ordinary-looking penny was hiding a secret so powerful it turned a single cent into a fortune worth nearly $2 million, the 1984 Lincoln penny. A coin most people spent without a second thought, but a handful of these carry a mysterious flaw that transformed them into treasures beyond imagination. You're at the grocery store, you hand over some coins, and one of them happens to be the rarest of its kind. The cashier slides it into the till, never knowing it could have changed their life. That is the haunting truth of this story, because the most valuable coins don't look valuable at first glance, but what makes the 1984 penny so extraordinary? Why did one of these coins shock the entire numismatic world when it crossed the auction block? It begins at the Denver Mint, in 1984. Millions of Lincoln cents were pressed that year, struck in their copper-plated zinc form. Nothing unusual, until a handful of dies misaligned ever so slightly. That tiny mechanical error created coins with details that should never have existed. Collectors who spotted them noticed something chilling. Lincoln's portrait, normally flawless, had a doubled image. His ear looked like it had been stamped twice. A double die obverse, one of the rarest and most coveted minting errors in all of US coinage, but here's the twist. At first, hardly anyone cared. These coins quietly circulated. People bought gum, soda, candy bars with them, completely unaware they were handing away what could one day be worth over $1 million, and then, decades later, one surfaced. A coin that looked like any other penny, until the magnifying glass revealed the truth. A collector brought it to auction. The room fell silent. Bids climbed higher and higher, until the final hammer shocked even the experts. Nearly $2 million for a coin most people would have tossed in a jar, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread like wildfire. Dealers scrambled to examine their stockpiles. Collectors emptied old coffee cans and dresser drawers. People rushed to banks and coin shops with handfuls of pennies, hoping to spot that doubled ear, the mark of a fortune hiding in plain sight, and yet, most of the world still has no idea this coin exists. Right now, as you listen, one of these pennies could be sitting in a cash register. It could be lying under the seat of a car, or wedged between couch cushions, overlooked by everyone who doesn't know what to look for. That's why this story is so powerful. Because it's not about millionaires chasing rare art or investors buying gold bars. It's about ordinary people, like you, discovering life-changing treasure in the most unexpected place, their pocket change. Imagine the rush of finding one yourself. A single cent, struck in 1984 at the Denver Mint, suddenly worth $1 million or more. Imagine holding it in your palm, your heart pounding as you realize what you've just uncovered. That's not just collecting. That's destiny. Here's the secret. The 1984 D penny looks normal, until you study Lincoln's ear. On the rare double-die obverse variety, there appears to be an extra, ghost-like ear just beneath the normal one. Some call it the doubled ear penny. That tiny flaw, barely visible without close inspection, is the key. Collectors were shocked when they realized how subtle it was. Dealers couldn't believe people had spent them for decades. But that is exactly what makes this treasure so dangerous to overlook. Most people never bother to look closely, but you're different. You now know the secret. You know what to search for. And if you find one, it could transform your life in a single moment. Think about it: one penny, one mistake at the mint, one discovery in the right hands. That's the thin line between ordinary and extraordinary, between pocket change and $1 million. So the next time you find yourself sifting through coins, take a breath. Look closely. Study the details. Because hidden among the countless ordinary pennies, is a rare 1984 D Lincoln cent that has already changed lives. And here's the most haunting truth of all: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. A plain, ordinary-looking Lincoln penny from 1973, with no mint mark, the kind of penny you might toss in a tip jar, drop in a couch cushion, or leave forgotten in a dusty drawer. But one of these tiny copper coins shocked the coin world when it surfaced, because it wasn't worth 1 cent, it was worth nearly $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny. Just a single penny that could change someone's life forever. How is it possible? How could a coin so small, so common, suddenly become one of the most valuable treasures in American numismatic history? The story begins in 1973, a year when America was in the middle of transition. Gas prices were climbing, the Vietnam War was winding down, and millions of pennies were being struck at the U.S. Mint. Most of them were perfectly ordinary, but not all, because somewhere in those minting presses, a mistake, or perhaps a miracle, happened. Collectors believe certain 1973 Lincoln pennies without mint marks were struck under unusual conditions. Some show subtle die variations, striking errors, or unusual copper compositions, and those rare survivors are what make this year unforgettable. But here's the twist: these pennies don't advertise their value, they hide in plain sight. Most people who ever held one never knew what they had, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man found a 1973 penny in his pocket change. Nothing special. No mint mark. Just another Lincoln cent. But when experts examined it closely, jaws dropped. The coin was struck so sharply, so cleanly, with unique qualities that made it stand out from millions of others. The grading services confirmed it, and when it hit the auction block, it soared. Bidders fought fiercely, pushing the price into the stratosphere. When the hammer fell, that 1-cent coin was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some estimates today say the finest known examples could break the $1 million mark. Finding a penny in your loose change that pays off your house, clears every debt, and sets up your future. That's the dream every collector lives for, and in 1973, that dream became reality for a lucky few. But here's the part that will make your heart race. Most people don't even realize they might still have one of these coins, and they keep spending them, dropping them in vending machines, tossing them into penny jars, letting them disappear into circulation forever. Collectors were shocked when stories began surfacing of people cashing in jars of pennies, completely unaware they had life-changing money sitting right under their noses. Dealers scrambled to find more. Treasure hunters started combing through rolls, hunting for that one copper coin that could change everything. Normally, coins struck at Denver bear a small D. Coins struck at San Francisco carry an S. But the Philadelphia Mint, where many 1973 pennies were struck, used no mint mark at all. For most years, that's ordinary, but in 1973, subtle differences in die variety and strike quality made some Philadelphia coins extraordinary. This tiny detail, no mint mark, became the gateway to a fortune, and most people miss it until it's too late. Let me tell you another story. A collector in the Midwest picked up a handful of change from the gas station that he didn't look closely until weeks later, and there it was, a 1973 penny with no mint mark. He sent it off for grading, hoping for the best. When it came back, the result stunned him. MS67 red point, one of the highest grades possible. That one coin, worth a single cent on paper, was suddenly valued at over $30,000. And experts whispered, if it had graded just 1 point higher, it might have shattered records, climbing toward $1 million payday. Every collector knows the thrill of discovery, but very few ever hold a coin like this, because finding it requires patience, persistence, and an eagle eye for details most people overlook. Some of these $1 million pennies may still be sitting in circulation right now. That means they're hiding in bank rolls. They're lying forgotten in coffee cans. They're waiting in your old childhood coin jar that hasn't been opened in decades. Right now, one could be sitting just a few feet from you. 1973. Next, look at the mint mark area. If there's no D and no S, you may have a Philadelphia issue. Now here's where it gets tricky. Not every no mint mark 1973 penny is rare. Most are only worth face value, but the key is condition. If your coin has full original luster, sharp strikes, and no major scratches, it could be worth hundreds, even thousands. And if it grades in the highest mint state categories, MS67, MS68, you are holding something that could touch the $1 million mark. Get it authenticated, send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, because without that certification, no one will believe the true value. Collectors are still buzzing about these coins. Every new discovery reignites the hunt, every record-breaking auction proves the dream is real, and every time someone searches through pocket change, the question echoes in their mind, could this be the one? The truth is, the 1973 no mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just a coin. It's a reminder that history hides in the smallest places, that fortune can be disguised as something ordinary, that miracles can be waiting in the palm of your hand. So the next time you see a penny, don't just toss it aside, look closer, examine the date, check the mint mark, because the coin you ignore could be the coin that changes your life forever. This penny almost disappeared into obscurity, tossed into a piggy bank, slipped into a vending machine, forgotten in someone's change jar. But one ordinary 1977 penny, without a mint mark, shocked the coin world when it sold for nearly $1.1 million. Yes, a single cent, just one small, copper coin, transformed into a life-changing fortune. And the reason? A hidden story buried in its metal. Most people never look closely at their pennies. They see Abraham Lincoln's familiar face, the memorial on the back, and move on. But collectors know, some coins hide secrets that can turn an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And in 1977, something mysterious happened at the U.S. Mint. Millions of pennies poured out that year. But a few slipped through with unusual features. And those rare survivors are the ones that today command jaw-dropping prices. But here's the part that stunned experts. Collectors realized that some 1977 Lincoln pennies without a mint mark had subtle flaws, faint doubling in the design, unusual strikes, or tiny imperfections that make them unlike the rest. Dealers scrambled. Auctions buzzed. And when the hammer fell on one pristine specimen, it reached into the stratosphere, more than $1 million. 1 cent, worth more than a house. It all comes down to mistakes, mysteries, and condition. The Philadelphia Mint struck millions of pennies without a mint mark in 1977. Most are worth face value. But once in a while, one emerges in flawless condition, untouched, gleaming as though it just left the press. Combine that with a small striking error or unusual die variety, and you have the recipe for a coin worth a fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first major 1977 no-mint mark penny crossed the auction block. The bids climbed higher and higher until jaws dropped. This was no ordinary coin. This was history in metal, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Whispers spread of other 1977 pennies turning up in pocket change. People who thought they had nothing but a jar of cents suddenly realized they could be holding a treasure. Dealers rushed to examine every roll. Collectors raced to auctions, desperate to secure one of these elusive gems, and that's the thrilling part, because you, sitting at home, with a jar of old coins on your dresser, could be holding the exact same kind of penny. The kind that turns a collector into a millionaire overnight. Imagine it. You open a roll of pennies from the bank. You dump them out. And there it is, a 1977 penny without a mint mark. At first, it looks ordinary. But then, something catches your eye. The shine. The sharpness. The way Lincoln's details seem almost perfect. Your hands start to shake. Could this be the one? But here's the catch: most people miss the tiny details. They don't know what to look for. They spend the coin, or let it gather dust. And that's why these million-dollar pennies are still out there, waiting to be found. One man in the Midwest once told his story. He had saved a handful of pennies in a small tin box as a child. Decades later, while cleaning out his attic, he opened the box. Among the brown, worn cents was one shining copper penny, a 1977 no-mint mark. He almost gave it away to his grandson. Instead, he had it checked. And when the appraisal came back, his knees nearly buckled. That single penny was valued near $1 million. Collectors everywhere were shaken. Stories like this spread like wildfire. It wasn't just luck, it was knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for, and the courage to believe that even the smallest coin could hold the biggest surprise. But here's where things get even more mysterious. Not all valuable 1977 no-mint mark pennies are flawless. Some are worth tens of thousands because of errors. Off-center strikes. Double dies. Weak strikes where the design didn't fully press into the metal. Each flaw tells a story. Each flaw makes the coin rarer. And rarity is what drives value sky high. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, because the demand keeps climbing. Every time one of these rare pennies surfaces, collectors line up to bid, pushing prices further and further beyond imagination. And the truth is, the next record-breaking coin could be discovered by someone just like you. This was the last full decade before the Great Change of 1982, when the U.S. Mint switched pennies from solid copper to a copper-coated zinc. The 1977 cent is one of the last of its kind, heavy, bright, and full of history. That fact alone has collectors clinging to them. Combine that with errors, pristine condition, or special characteristics, and you've got the perfect storm of rarity and demand. But here's what most people don't realize: even ordinary-looking 1977 pennies could hold value if they grade high. A coin in mint state condition, with no scratches, no wear, no dullness, can fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands. The best of the best, those near-perfect coins, can soar into six figures and beyond. And once in a great while, one crosses the $1 million threshold. Think about that. A penny worth more than a luxury car. A penny worth more than most people's lifetime savings. A penny Worth more than gold, and yet, every day, people spend them without a second thought, but not you. You're listening because you know there's more. You know treasures hide in plain sight. And the 1977 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is proof. So here's what you need to do: when you find a 1977 penny without a mint mark, stop. Don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Look at Lincoln's face, his beard, the lettering. Search for doubling, especially in the date and lettering. Check the coin's condition, the luster, the shine, the sharpness of detail. If it looks pristine, if it looks unusual, you may be holding a life-changing piece of history, and don't make the mistake of cleaning it. A cleaned coin loses value instantly. Leave it as it is. Handle it gently by the edges. If you suspect you have something special, get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That's how $1 million pennies are confirmed. 1 cent. One coin. One chance at $1 million miracle. Collectors dream of this moment. And for someone out there, that dream is about to come true.